There's always something new to look at and study when it comes to archaeology. Archaeologists never stop digging, and so there will always be new discoveries and new information to sink our teeth into. While new archaeological discoveries are made almost every day, only the best of them make it to our channel. This is a video collection of all the most remarkable finds made in recent times. The discovery of a previously undisturbed tomb in Egypt is always big news, but some tombs are more astonishing than others. This one, which was opened for the first time in 2019, stands head and shoulders above all the rest. And that's because the colors painted on the walls still look so fresh that the work could have been finished yesterday. That's obviously not the case, though. This tomb is more than 4,000 years old. It hasn't been easy to identify the occupant of this almost pristine tomb, but experts believe that it's probably the final resting place of a high-ranking official named Kui, who served as a nobleman during the 5th dynasty some 4,400 years ago. His tomb contains numerous depictions of and references to the pharaoh Djedkar-Esesi, implying that he may have served him directly. The entrance to the tunnel is of a design that's usually reserved for pyramids, which suggests that Kui was held in high regard during his lifetime. Djedkar-Esesi ruled for more than 40 years, but little is known about his reign, so archaeologists hope that this beautiful tomb might still have more information to reveal. Although woolly mammoths are extinct in the present day, at one point in the distant past they lived side by side with humans. We've known for a while that our ancient ancestors used to hunt them, but thanks to a discovery that was first reported in early 2020, we now know that they also sometimes use their bones as building materials. This enormous Ice Age mammoth bone structure can be found in Russia and was put together by nomadic hunter-gatherers some 25,000 years ago. It's the only structure of its size, shape, and type ever found anywhere in the world. The bones of at least 60 mammoths were used to create the giant circular structure, which may also have been coated in their hides. Experts have identified traces of charred wood at the center of the structure, proving fires were set inside it, but its ultimate purpose is unknown. It's previously been thought that hunter-gatherers only made permanent structures like this to shelter their people during winter, but this ring would have been too large and hard to heat to serve such a purpose. It may have played a role in rituals of some kind, but that's little more than a guess. The site of Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England is already one of Europe's best-known and most studied ancient curiosities. But as of mid-2020, there's been a new mystery surrounding the site. What is the purpose of the recently discovered circle of Neolithic-era shafts that surround the site, covering a distance of over a mile around the settlement of Durrington Walls? And do they provide evidence that the ancient people who created them knew how to count? The shafts are around 4,500 years old, which suggests they were created at the same time as the stone circle at their center. Each shaft is 30 feet wide and 15 feet deep. This would have been an incredibly difficult construction project for people working only with tools made from wood, stone, or bone. Archaeologists from the University of Bradford believe that the complexity of the site and the symmetry of the shafts proves that the people who made them had a basic counting or tallying system, which was previously believed to be beyond the comprehension of Neolithic-era Brits. Nothing has been found buried at the bottom of the shafts, which begs the question of what they were used for. We might be waiting a while for the answer to that. Our next recent discovery looks so improbable that you might think it's a special effect or CGI trickery, but it's real. It's a stunning Roman mosaic that's been washed clean by the waters of the Euphrates in Turkey. Although it's somewhat eroded, the intricate patterns on its surface are just as clear now as they were when they were created 2,000 years ago. It's one of many Roman mosaics that have been discovered recently in Guni, a village in Turkey's Antalya province. Work has been ongoing at the site since 2015, but it's only during the past 3 years that these large-scale mosaic pieces have been found and delicately cleared. It's clear that there was once a large-scale Roman settlement here, and these mosaics were probably part of a villa, possibly one that belonged to a high-ranking Roman officer, or perhaps even a local leader. It will be difficult to protect the mosaics that are now exposed to the water, so it's possible that they might be cut out of the ground and transported to a museum for safekeeping and preservation. A beautiful collection of ornate treasures was found in the tomb of a Silla princess in November 2020. The discovery was made in Gyeongju, a city in the North Gyeongsang province of South Korea. Back when this princess was laid to rest almost 1,500 years ago, Korea was divided into 3 kingdoms, Silla being one of them, alongside Goguryeo and Baekja. It was established in the year 57 BCE and lasted until the 10th century. The remains of the princess herself are now little more than dust, but archaeologists have managed to find and excavate a gilt bronze crown, her golden pendants and earrings, gold bracelets, gold chest ornaments, a ceremonial knife, and what appear to be pieces of an ancient board game called Baduk. The giveaway that the tomb's occupant was royal is the presence of a collection of gold-edged jeweled beetles, which only ever appear in the graves of Silla royals. Whoever this princess was, she was clearly a woman of expensive tastes, and she was allowed to take the majority of her riches and worldly goods to the grave with her. There's been a frenzy of archaeological activity in recent times around the region of Saqqara in Egypt, with new discoveries reported almost every month. The most striking find of 2020 was this amassed collection of almost 100 coffins, all of which were buried at roughly the same time 2,500 years ago. The caskets were found close to just under 40 gilded statues. The people buried at this vast necropolis lived during the time of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which ruled Egypt for 3 centuries during the late period. The coffins were found inside burial shafts and are extravagantly decorated. It's thought that this burial site was used by the people of Memphis, which was Egypt's capital city during that era. The level of decoration on the coffins indicates that the deceased were top officials, possibly priests, and were laid to rest with a degree of reverence and respect that wouldn't be afforded to the average citizen. This is likely to be the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's to come in Saqqara, with experts and archaeologists there confident that they're close to discovering the tomb of a great pharaoh in the near future. We know that the Maya were once the most advanced and powerful civilization on the South American continent, but we still know very little about them, despite finding so many of their ancient monuments and cities. In June 2020, the largest Mayan monument ever discovered was located by archaeologists from the University of Arizona in the USA using cutting-edge laser and sensor technology known as LiDAR. That technology revealed the presence of a 4,600-foot-long structure that was once around 50 feet tall, not far from Tabasco, Mexico. The majority of the structure is invisible to the naked eye, but shows up clearly when technology is employed to reveal it. The site has been called Aguada Phoenix and has been dated to around 800 BCE using radiocarbon analysis of charcoal samples. Other Maya cities and settlements in the area are generally found with impressive statues or colossal stone heads, but the lack of any such discovery here suggests that it might have been a communal site occupied by everyday people. Perhaps more importantly, it's similar to sites found in the Olmec area of what's now San Lorenzo, and so it might point to a solid connection between the Olmec and the Maya. The discovery of an ancient piece of string might not sound like a big deal at first, but it becomes a big deal when you consider what it might mean in the context of our understanding of Neanderthals. We've always believed that Neanderthals were cognitively inferior to early humans, but if this string was made by Neanderthals, as is believed to be the case, then they were capable of better understanding and comprehension than we generally give them credit for. The tiny cord fragment, which was found in Abri du Marat, France, was made around 50,000 years ago by combining 3 bundles of fibers together and twisting them. Experts think it was either wrapped around a stone tool as a handle, or perhaps part of a net bag for carrying tools. It's hard to believe that the cord could have been created without at least a basic knowledge of the seasonality of the trees that produced the fibers and the numeracy skills needed to bundle the cords together and make rope. If Neanderthals could make cords and ropes, it stands to reason that they could make nets. It might even stand to reason, with a little imagination, to believe that they could make boats. The archaeologists responsible for the discovery of the 100 coffins in Saqqara we mentioned a little earlier on were very proud of themselves. So imagine how happy archaeologists in China were when they discovered more than 6,000 tombs in Sichuan in May 2020. The tombs range dramatically in age, with the oldest created during the Warring States period of 2,400 years ago, and the more recent occupant laid to rest toward the end of the Ming Dynasty in the 17th century. All in all, this burial site stayed in use for more than 1,300 years. Because of the vast difference in age between the oldest and newest tombs, the grave goods found inside them differ extensively. The Neolithic-era tombs contain only stoneware and pottery, whereas the later graves feature coins, bronzeware, and pearls from both the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Whenever a site this large is found, it often poses more questions than answers. The two biggest questions that archaeologists are trying to answer at the moment are, why was this place chosen for the internment of so many people? And why did the practice of burying people here suddenly come to an end? In the days before films and television, if you wanted to be entertained by a compelling story, you would have to go to a theater. During the 16th and 17th centuries, there was no place in London, England better to go see a theater show than the Globe Theatre, which was built and opened by Shakespeare himself. However, that wasn't the first playhouse to be built in London. That honor might go to an earlier structure, which was discovered in June 2020 and appears to date back to the year 1567, 30 years before Shakespeare opened the Globe. If the team from the University College London are correct, these are the ruins of the Red Lion Playhouse, built during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I and marking the beginning of the golden era of Elizabethan theater. Archaeologists have been hunting for the site for years, but the only reliable written records of it come from lawsuits that original owner John Brain raised against the carpenters who built it for him. Those lawsuits suggested that the theater was built in what's now the Whitechapel district of the city, and based on records of the shape and dimensions of the theater, this newly excavated space appears to be the genuine article. It's said that Christianity arrived on the island of Malta after St. Paul was shipwrecked there in the year 60, but it's impossible to prove that. The true history of religion on the island is shrouded in mystery, but discoveries like this 1,600-year-old catacomb with its intricately decorated walls might help us to shed some light on that mystery. This is Hal Reskun Tomb, which has been known about by residents of Malta for centuries, but was largely ignored by the wider world until 2006. That's when it was finally rediscovered by British archaeologists after being buried under debris from the construction of a nearby airport since the 1950s. What's odd about the catacombs is that the style of decoration here, including fluted columns carved into the rock, are classic Roman architectural signatures. 2 low-relief etchings on the walls, which might be forms of ancient graffiti, show humans and animals in what some people have interpreted to be biblical scenes. Also of note is a depiction of a peacock feeding a chick. Peacocks were often symbolically connected to the concept of immortality in ancient times, and so this might be a reference to the afterlife. The Bible tells us that Jerusalem was attacked and burned to the ground by the Babylonians 2,600 years ago before being rebuilt. And thanks to discoveries made by archaeologists working at a site on Mount Zion in 2019, we now know the Bible is correct about that. Not only that, but we also know that prior to the attack, Jerusalem was a much bigger and richer Iron Age settlement than we've long assumed it was. Evidence of the attack and the fire comes from layer upon layer of ash that's been sifted through by experts. But those same experts have also found finely worked pieces of silver and gold jewelry, which might have been companion pieces and designed to fit together. Based on their design, they might have once been part of a much larger golden ornament. Only someone of great wealth or great status would possibly have been able to afford goods like this in the ancient world. And so if they made Jerusalem their home, it's fair to assume that there were others like them living in the city. Aside from the ash and the precious goods, experts found Scythian arrowheads, of the kind that would have been used by attacking Babylonian forces. That raises the possibility that the ornaments were left behind by someone in their haste to flee the city. It's impossible to imagine that anyone would have voluntarily parted with something so valuable. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!